Picture a man at the end of his rope, staring into the abyss of his mundane life. This is our protagonist, a man caught in the monotonous cycle of his everyday existence. His life, once vibrant and full of promise, now feels like a dull, worn-out tapestry, devoid of color and joy. His work, once a source of pride and fulfillment, now seems like an endless labyrinth of frustration and discontentment. He's not just tired, he's bone-weary. In this moment of despair, he looks at his phone, his digital tether to the world. Images of others living their best lives, exploring the world, and finding happiness flash before his eyes. Suddenly, a spark ignites within him. He realizes that perhaps the solution to his unhappiness isn't within the confines of his cubicle, but out there, in the vast, unexplored wilderness of the world. In an act of desperation, or perhaps courage, he decides to break free from his chains of monotony. A solo trip, that's what he needs. A journey to find himself, to reconnect with the world, to feel alive again. He logs off from his work, a symbolic gesture of disconnecting from his old life. His heart is heavy with the weight of his unfulfilled dreams, but his bag is full of hope and anticipation. Will this journey provide the answers he seeks? Will he find the missing piece of his life's puzzle? Or will it lead him to more questions, more confusion, more despair? Only time will tell. But for now, he knows he needs to take this step, to embark on this journey, to give himself a chance at happiness. And so, with a heavy heart and a bag full of hope, he embarked on his journey. A journey of self-discovery, of new beginnings, of hope and despair. A journey that would change his life forever. Little did he know, the stars were aligning for an encounter that would alter his perception of life and love. But that, my friends, is a story for another day. As our protagonist steps into the world, he carries with him a sense of anticipation and trepidation. Embarking on a journey of self-discovery, he finds himself wandering through the lush greenery of a zoo. His eyes take in the raw beauty of the wild, the majestic animals in their enclosures, each a testament to the wonder of nature. Yet, despite the allure of the exotic creatures, a feeling of discontent gnaws at him, a persistent reminder of the void within. From the zoo, our hero ventures into the heart of grandeur and opulence, a palace that stands as a symbol of power and prestige. Its grand halls echo with stories of a bygone era. The ornate carvings whisper tales of royal extravagance. The palace, much like the zoo, is a spectacle to behold. Yet it too fails to fill the emptiness that engulfs him. Throughout this journey, he is an observer, a spectator to the world's beauty and its grandeur. But despite the awe-inspiring sights he encounters, there's a sense of dissatisfaction, a nagging feeling that something vital is missing. His heart yearns for a connection, a bond that ties him to something or someone beyond the confines of his own existence. His travels bring him face to face with the wonders of the world, yet they do little to alleviate the weight of his loneliness. He is surrounded by beauty, but it does nothing more than serve as a stark reminder of his isolation. The world is a masterpiece, and he is but a solitary figure navigating its vast expanse. Despite the scenic landscapes, the exotic animals, the opulent palace, he finds himself grappling with an unshakable sense of unhappiness. The world, in all its glory, fails to bring him the joy he seeks. His heart, heavy with longing, yearns for something more than mere sights and experiences. Even in the midst of this journey, he found no solace, no joy. His heart yearned for something more. Just when he thought he'd hit rock bottom, destiny had other plans. Our protagonist finds himself at a train station, the hustle and bustle around him a stark contrast to the quiet emptiness he feels within. As he queues up to buy a ticket, a girl appears beside him, her eyes reflecting a familiar sense of frustration. She's having trouble with the ticket machine and she turns to our hero for help. In that moment, he feels a pull towards her, a connection he can't quite put his finger on. He steps in, the simplicity of buying a ticket somehow bringing him a sense of purpose he hadn't felt in a while. As he hands her the ticket, their eyes meet, and it's as though time stands still. In her gaze, he sees a mirror to his own struggles, but also a spark of something more, resilience perhaps, or hope. A conversation sparks between them, as natural as if they'd known each other for years. As they talk, our protagonist finds himself opening up, sharing his frustrations, his dreams, his fears. He listens as she shares her own experiences, her words resonating with him in a way he'd never experienced before. As he listens to her, he feels a shift within him. Her perspective on life, on love, it's like a breath of fresh air, clearing the fog that had settled over his mind. He feels his heart stir, his spirits lift. The weight of his frustrations seems to lighten. He finds himself drawn to her, her strength, her resilience, her zest for life. He feels a glimmer of hope, a spark of excitement for what the future might hold. With every word, every shared laugh, every moment of connection, he finds himself falling for her. He finds himself wanting to know more about her, to be a part of her world. He can't help but think that maybe, just maybe, this chance encounter was meant to be, that maybe this was the turning point he'd been searching for. With her by his side, the journey suddenly didn't seem so daunting anymore. As the train chugged along, so did their conversation, and with it, a blooming friendship. The rhythmic pulse of the train wheels seemed to beat in time with our protagonist's heart as he found himself drawn to this enigmatic woman. They were two strangers, bound together by the serendipity of a chance encounter, their lives intersecting in the confines of this moving carriage. As the landscape outside their window blurred into a kaleidoscope of colors, their conversation meandered through various topics. From the mundane to the profound, they explored the contours of their lives, revealing their dreams, their fears, and their hopes. Each word, each shared laugh, each moment of silence added another thread to the tapestry of their growing bond. He found himself captivated by her. Her laughter was a symphony that stirred his soul, her words a beacon that illuminated his thoughts. With each passing minute, he was drawn deeper into the charm of her presence, her essence seeping into his consciousness, subtly transforming him. It was in these shared moments that he began to see life through a different lens. His frustration and discontent were slowly eroded by the warmth of her spirit. In her, he found an oasis of tranquility, a haven where his troubled thoughts found solace. He could feel the icy walls around his heart melting, replaced by a warmth he hadn't felt in a long time. Their conversation was like a dance, a harmonious symphony of words and emotions. With every shared smile, every exchanged glance, he could feel a connection forming, a bond that transcended the confines of the train carriage. It was a connection that felt as real and tangible as the throbbing pulse in his veins. The journey was no longer about reaching a destination, but about the moments they were creating together. He was no longer the frustrated man seeking escape, but a man who had found a reason to hope, to smile, to love. As the train journey neared its end, he realized he had found something more than just a travel companion. He had found a friend, a confidant, a spark that ignited a flame within his heart. Just as quickly as she had entered his life, she was about to leave. Our protagonist, his heart pounding like a drum, finds himself at the crossroads of his journey. The train, which had been a vessel of discovery and connection, was now pulling into the station, marking the end of their shared journey. But was it also the end of their budding relationship? The past few hours felt like a dream. The conversations, the laughter, the shared glances, they had all felt so real, so tangible. But now, as the train screeched to a halt, the dream seemed to be slipping away, threatening to vanish like smoke into the ether. He could feel his heart sink, his stomach twist in knots. Our hero's mind was a whirlwind of thoughts. He was caught in a storm of emotions, battling the fear of losing her, of going back to his mundane life without her. He had found a spark in her, a spark that had ignited a new perspective on life and love within him. He had tasted the sweetness of companionship, and he was afraid of the bitterness of solitude that might follow. The air was heavy with tension, the kind that comes from not knowing what lies ahead. His palms were sweaty, his throat dry. He wanted to ask her to stay, to continue this journey with him, but the words were stuck, lodged in his throat, refusing to come out. The train had stopped, the doors were opening, the platform was buzzing with life, but all he could hear was the deafening silence of his own fear. He watched her rise from her seat, her silhouette framed by the train door. He could feel his heart pounding in his chest, his breath hitching. As the train pulled into the station, he was left wondering, would this be the end of their journey together, or just the beginning? The question hung in the air, unanswered, as the scene faded into the unknown.